Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started this morning by just welcoming everyone. Sawadee Krab, Sawadee Krab. Welcome to all of you guys. Ni hao to those of you guys that are here from China. Welcome to everyone. Today is the third day of a 5-day course that I've been teaching, and then on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays we have regular classes where students just come in to learn. And when I'm teaching a course, I just let you guys go ahead and join into the course if you'd like. So I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning for some meditation or maybe for a little bit of talking afterwards. It's up to you how long you would like to stay. But today what we're going to be starting with is doing a loving kindness meditation, where this helps you to eliminate anger and frustration and all these other discontent feelings that are coming out of the anger, hatred, ill will, the agitation, the annoyance that's in the mind. Because the teachings of the Buddha are to help you train your mind. It's not about a bunch of beliefs that where you believe a bunch of things and then you hope something good happens when you die. It's also not a bunch of rules or commandments. His teachings are to help guide you to getting to the enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings by the time you get to enlightenment. You'll experience peace, calmness, serenity, and contentedness with joy. You'll no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these discontent feelings in others are eliminated from the mind by training of the mind. You'll notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity of mind, and deep memory. Your personal, professional relationships will really blossom because you're not being hostile or aggressive or bitter in any of your relationships anymore. You'll notice that you're not even in a bad mood, that all the conditions that produce a bad mood have been uprooted from the mind through training of the mind. There's an entire path to enlightenment that you would need to learn and understand. It's not just about meditation, but meditation is an important component of the path to enlightenment, but there's other aspects to it as well. And after our meditation today, I'm going to be teaching what's called true love, love without attachment, because this course that I'm teaching right now, it's called Harmony in Relationships. It's helping you understand how to create harmony in your relationships so that your relationships can be at ease, because oftentimes that's one of the challenges that an individual faces in the unenlightened state, is that you'll find that you have difficulties in your relationships with your parents or your siblings, maybe your life partner, your children, your co-workers, different people in your life. You'll have difficulties in those relationships. And oftentimes what the unenlightened mind does is it blames other people for the problems that you're experiencing in your relationships. But in reality, it's your own mind that's causing these difficulties. And when you understand these problems that the Buddha discovered within your own mind, and you use the tools and techniques to uproot those issues out of your mind, this is where you'll notice your personal, professional relationships will really blossom. But if you don't have the wisdom of how to train your mind, and you continue to blame the problems that you experience in life on other people, you'll never actually fix the true causes that are causing the difficulties in your own mind. So this topic of true love, love without attachment, I'm going to end up sharing with you how to practice true love, where you'll be able to experience more harmonious relationships. Because in the unenlightened state, we oftentimes misunderstand what's something that's called craving, desire, attachment as love, but it's not actually true love. And I'll explain this to you after we do our meditation. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys here at the temple. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. If you are here for the first time, I'd like to just let you know that there's a bathroom in the back of the room, the very last door on the right. You're welcome to use that at any time. We even have bathrooms outside the main classroom. You can just follow the main signs for the temple. It'll take you around to the main bathroom. And we even have water and things here that students provide that you guys are welcome to help yourself to some water. And I even see some snacks over there that you guys are welcome to help yourself to if you'd like something. So if you'd like to join for meditation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some chanting. These chants are in the Pali language. This is the original language of the teachings of the Buddha. These chants, they're not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. There's nothing mystical or magical with these chants. It really just helps to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, everything he taught was oral. So they used chanting during his lifetime as a way to commit the teachings to memory, because they didn't write things down during his lifetime. They didn't have the technology in that region of the world. So everything that he taught was oral. So they would chant every 2 weeks. They would recite his teachings word for word for word. So there's nothing mystical or magical about these chants. There's no prayer or worship or anything like this. If you would like to chant along, we have chanting sheets over on the table over there that you can see the actual chants. It's a laminated sheet. It even has the English translations. You're welcome to chant along or just see what the translations are. You're welcome to help yourself to those. If you read these English translations, I'll just let you guys get them. I see a bunch of people getting up. Yeah. There should be enough for everybody. For those of you guys online, if you guys would like to see the chants, you can go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, and from there, click on the link that says free books, and down towards the bottom, you'll see the chanting sheet there that'll say daily chants. This is the same thing that the folks here at the temple are getting. So these chants, if you read the English translations, you see a lot of admiration and respect and gratitude for the Buddha. So I suspect that the Buddha himself didn't actually create these chants, that these chants were created by his students, probably during his life or after his death, as a way to honor and respect him. Because if you learn from a teacher that helped you move from the anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to this peace and joy, and they didn't want anything from you, they didn't ask anything of you, they didn't have any expectations of you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So the people that learned with the Buddha had an enormous amount of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for him. And I have the same thing even today, having learned his teachings and saw the impact that they have in your life. You might end up developing that appreciation, gratitude, and respect at some point too. So these chants were most likely not created by the Buddha, because the Buddha doesn't walk around, teaching people to do things to admire them, right? They would have eliminated their ego and their arrogance. The Buddha would have seen everybody as equal. He wouldn't put himself above people or below people. He would just see himself as equal and be humble. But his students most likely created these chants. So I was going to start with these to ease us into meditation. Then when we get into the meditation, we're going to do what's called breathing mindfulness meditation. I'll be guiding you in that. And then after I guide you in that, there'll be kind of like a 3 to 5 minute period where we'll just be quiet and we'll be meditating together. Then I'm going to come back in with guidance on loving kindness meditation. I'm going to be doing these affirmations out loud that are things like, may I be peaceful, or may I be safe. And when you hear that, you can just repeat it in your mind on your out breath. And what you're doing is you're transforming the mind. You're essentially rewiring the mind to be more loving and kind as part of this meditation. And gradually, if you practice this over time, you'll find more love and more kindness coming into the mind, where you can be more loving and kind in your relationships. Because when you put out love and kindness, this is what will come back to you. But when you put out bitterness and harshness and hostility in your relationships, that's what's going to come back to you. So if you can transform your mind to be more loving and kind, and you can practice being more loving and kind in your relationships, then you'll experience more and more love and kindness in your relationships. So we'll do that for a period of time. Then we'll go back to breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of the meditation with some chanting. And that's where I'll switch over and share with you guys the topic for today. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, the Buddha taught 4 different positions: seated, lying, standing, and walking. We don't do the loving kindness meditation in the walking position, but there is a walking position for the breathing mindfulness meditation. And you would use these different positions at different times, because your body can't stay in the same position all the time. You're going to need these different positions at different times. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position, so I'll give you guys some guidance on the seated position. Oftentimes people are either sitting on the floor or in a chair. If you're sitting on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. You would like your legs to just be lightly crossed. You're not interested in them being real tight, because this will inhibit the circulation, and you would like to keep the circulation flowing so you don't experience pain in your lower body. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But this practice isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way, because that isn't actually possible. You may or may not find this to be comfortable. If this is comfortable for you, wonderful, use it. But there's other options here as well. You could put your palms on your thighs, on your knees. You could put your palms up. You could maybe place your hands in your lap. It's whatever's comfortable for you. So find whatever's comfortable, where your lower body and hands and arms can be relaxed. And then the same thing goes for being in a chair, that some people like to sit in a chair, on a sofa or a bench or something like this. You could put your feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. And again, your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind would be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect, which means your sternum is up and your shoulders are back. And this allows you to keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose so you can fully expand your lungs and get some nice breaths. Okay, so once again, I'm going to ease into the meditation with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along in. Then I'll be back with some guidance in the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavito Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then when you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May my mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May my friends and family be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรภูริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see you all here today at the temple. And those of you guys online, welcome to everyone. I would like to share with you guys this topic of true love, love without attachment. This is what I had planned to discuss this morning with our class, Harmony in Relationships. If you are experiencing situations where in your relationships you keep experiencing difficulties and struggles, hostility, bitterness, if you're noticing that you keep having broken relationships over and over and over again, this is all due to the mind not understanding true love. In the unenlightened state, we don't understand true love. We practice something that we think is love, but it's not actually love itself. And this is one of the reasons why we have so many struggles in the unenlightened state. That there's something called craving, desire, attachment that's kind of masquerading as love. If you think that love is painful, then you don't yet know what love is. So I'm going to teach you what love is and how to love without attachment, but you're going to need to learn this. You're going to need to reflect on it to independently understand it. Then you're going to need to practice it. And it's not something that oftentimes people get right away, because a lot of the relationships that you're in, they may have true love in there, but there's also craving, desire, attachment. And this makes it challenging for the mind to really understand and sort out what true love is. In the unenlightened state, there's something called craving, desire, attachment, expectations, wants, longing, and yearning. The mind is chasing after the objects of its affection, wanting things to be permanently pleasing. And if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. You get happy, you get excited, elated, thrill, euphoria. But if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, these other painful feelings. And this is all being caused by the mind itself. The mind is longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. And again, if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. But if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings. So for example, if you want it to be sunny outside, and it's sunny, you'll be happy. You'll be excited. Yay, it's sunny. But then when it rains, you'll be sad. You'll be frustrated because you're not getting what you want. Or if your bank account balance is like this, you're like, yay, my bank account balance is here. But then when it drops, you're sad or you're frustrated. This is the mind's craving, desire, attachment. Or if your mom and dad do this over here, which is what you want them to do, you'll be happy. But if they do this over here, you'll be sad or frustrated or angry because your mind isn't getting what you want and what you expect. So this is actually masquerading as love. In the unenlightened state, you meet somebody, you start to get fond of them. Maybe you're attracted to them physically or emotionally or intellectually or some other reason. You might be attracted to this person and you start spending time with them. And when you guys first get together, everything is so wonderful, right? Oh my goodness, they're sending you messages, they're checking in on you, you're going out to dinner, you're going to the movies, maybe you're going to the park, you're having great conversations, you might even be having intimate contact at some point. Everything couldn't be better, right? At the very beginning of a relationship. But then as time goes on, you get to a point where you say, I've fallen in love with you. Right? You might say that to them. I've fallen in love with you. Or they might say that to you. I've fallen in love with you. And then as time goes on, things go on and you guys get angry at each other, you get sad, you get frustrated, you get agitated at each other. And finally it gets to the point where you're like, all right, I'm done with this relationship, or they're done with the relationship. And then it ends. And then you get sad and you get frustrated and you get lonely. It's not the love that's causing all of this. That's not what's causing all of this. What this is craving, desire, attachment. This is the longing. This is the yearning. This is the wanting things to be a certain way. This is the expectation that when you guys first got together, you didn't have any expectations of them and they didn't have any expectations of you. That's why everything was so wonderful. Because you weren't wanting them to be any particular way and they weren't wanting you to be any particular way. It was just two people getting to know each other, right? There was no expectations at the beginning of the relationship. That's why everything was so wonderful. But then as you guys started getting closer and closer, you started getting deeper and deeper involved in your relationship, you started wanting them to do certain things and they started wanting you to do certain things. And now when you were getting what you wanted, you got pleasant feelings. But when you didn't get what you wanted, you got painful feelings. And the same thing for them, that when they got what they wanted, they had pleasant feelings, and when they didn't get what they wanted, they got painful feelings. And the unenlightened mind is attributing this to love. Those painful feelings that you were getting in the relationship, the anger and the sadness and the frustration, you were thinking it's because you love them so much. But it's actually not the love that's causing those painful feelings. It's the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning, the expecting, the wanting that person to be a certain way. And in the mind, you have a certain perspective of exactly how this person should be. And when they're that way, again, you get happy. But when they're not that way, you get sad or frustrated or agitated. But this person can't be the way that you want them to be because what you want is within your own mind. This person has their own mind. They're making their own decisions. So when you say, I've fallen in love with you, or somebody says, I've fallen in love with you, you might say, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. This isn't actually love. This is craving, desire, attachment. There might be love in there, but this is craving, desire, attachment. This is saying, if you're with me, I will be happy. But if you're not with me, I won't be happy. That means you're basing your inner feelings on this person. That if this person's with you and you have them with you, then you'll be happy. But if you're away from them, you'll be sad. It's not the love that's causing that. It's the attachment. It's the mind holding on. It's craving. It's wanting this person to be permanent in your life. But they can't be permanent in your life because everything around you is impermanent. So as long as your mind's craving and you're having attachment where you're basing your inner feelings on whether you're with this person or not, that means you can only be happy when you're with this person. But you can't be with this person permanently. It's not possible. You guys are going to come and go and come and go. Even if you were in a relationship for the rest of your life, you can't be with them permanently. Sometimes you're going to go on a business trip or they're going to go on a business trip, or one of you guys are going to die first, most likely, and you can't be with them permanently. So as long as you're basing your inner feelings on whether you have this person with you or not, your mind's going to go up and down and up and down. If you're with them, you'll be happy, and if you're not with them, you'll be sad. If they're away from you, you will miss them. That feeling of missing a person, it's not coming from the love. That's coming from the attachment. It means if you're with me, I feel good. But if you're away from me, I feel miserable. I feel like I miss you. This is the attachment. So the mind in the unenlightened state says, I have fallen in love with you. But in reality, what you've done is you've fallen into craving, desire, attachment with this person. You've fallen into this craving, desire, attachment where the mind is longing, yearning, and wanting this person to be permanent, but yet they can't be permanent because they are impermanent. We don't have something called conditional love. This isn't actually true, but we might call this conditional love. That we say, if you're with me, I love you. And if you meet all my expectations and you do what I want, then I will say I love you. But when you stop doing what I want, then I don't love you anymore. This isn't actually love. What true love is you love somebody unconditionally, that you don't have expectations and longing and yearning, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But just a little bit more about this craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as love, that in the unenlightened state, when you meet somebody and you first get to know them and you're experiencing whatever you're experiencing with them, if they're meeting all your expectations, that's when you will say, I've fallen in love with you. Because you're now meeting all my expectations, I've fallen in love with you. But as the relationship goes on and they're no longer meeting your expectations anymore, you will say, I've fallen out of love with you. I don't love you anymore. This is actually selfishness. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's just because the mind doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It just lacks wisdom to understand what it's doing. That the mind is having certain expectations and longing, yearning, and wanting this person to be a certain way. And it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. And when it doesn't get what it wants, it will say, I have fallen out of love with you. But in reality, what's happened is you're not meeting my expectations anymore. So I can't be with you anymore because you're not meeting my expectations. You're not doing what I want you to do. This isn't actually love. What true love is when you love unconditionally. True love is when you have this unconditional love where you love somebody as they are, without requiring them to be any particular way, without wanting them to be any particular way. You don't fall into love with people and you don't fall out of love with people. When you have unconditional love, you can love someone as they are. But when you have this conditional love or this craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as love, you can only say, I love you when you're doing things my way. When you're doing things my way, I will say, I love you. But when you don't do things my way, I don't love you. This isn't actually love. This is expectations and wants. And this is the selfishness that the unenlightened mind has. But when you can get to true love, which is unconditional love, love without attachment, you can love everybody. You can have love for every single being in the world because you don't want them to be any particular way. You just love them as they are. That's what it means to have true love, is you just love somebody as they are. Understanding that in order for somebody to have a great relationship with you, they're going to need to be able to make their own decisions in their life. If your love is contingent upon that person doing things your way, then that means you can only love one person, and that's yourself. Because only you are the only one who's going to do things your way. But if you want everyone else to do things your way, then you can't love everybody. You can only love people who do things your way. So what true love is getting to the point where you love people unconditionally. You love them as they are without putting your expectations on them, trying to force them or control them to do things your way. Because in the unenlightened state, when we don't understand true love, when somebody does something you agree with, like I mentioned, you'll say you love them. But when you don't agree with what they do, you will typically push them away out of your life. You will think that they are causing you to feel painful feelings, and you will push them away, or you'll push the situation away, or you'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards them through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, or you'll put your expectations on them and try to control them to do things your way. And in this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all beings because the mind can only live harmoniously with people who do things your way. And this is causing difficulties in your life where constantly over and over and over again, you'll meet somebody, you don't have any expectations of them, and then everything will be great at the beginning. But then when your expectations start coming in and you start wanting them to be a certain way and they can't do those things your way permanently, then you'll get angry or sad or frustrated, and you'll attribute those painful feelings that you're having to this person, thinking that that person is causing you the painful feelings, when in reality it's your own mind causing these feelings based on your wants. And when you falsely understand what's actually occurring and you think that the problem is this person, you will tend to push them away out of your life. And this is why you keep experiencing broken relationships over and over and over again, because either you're pushing people out of your life or those people are pushing you out of their life. And now when you keep experiencing these broken relationships over and over and over again, it feels like a real struggle. It feels like a real burden. It's very exhausting for you. It's very troubling, right? The mind experiences these painful feelings due to attachment. But you can get to a point where you just love people as they are, that you don't want them to be any particular way. You don't expect them to be any particular way. That you understand that to have true love, which is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, having active goodwill towards others, that's what true love is that you have an interest to see others be well. Where this craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as love, we say, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. It's all about me, right? But with the unconditional love, it's, I love you, therefore I would like to see you be well. And part of you being well is that you make your own decisions, and I don't try to force you to be any particular way. So in a situation where, say you have a life partner, and maybe you would like to go to the movies, and you say to your life partner, hey, would you like to go see the new movie that's coming out? I don't know what the new movie is. Let's just say Superman, right? Would you like to go see the new Superman movie? And your partner says, no, I'd like to stay at home. Well, if you have a craving, desire, attachment, and you want them to come with you, you might say, come on, come to the movie. Come on, you got to go. Like, come on, let's go. You might try to start forcing them to come to the movie with you. Well, this isn't true love. This is your craving, desire, attachment. You're wanting them to come with you because you feel like you can only be happy if you go to the movie with them. But what you're going to need to learn how to do is how to go to the movies with yourself or with somebody else and still have a good time. If you can only have a good time when you're with this person, that means your mind's attached to them. It's longing, it's yearning, it's holding on. And now you'll try to pressure them to give you what you want, when in reality, they would like to just stay at home. So even if they decide to come with you, they're going to be grumpy and irritable. They're not going to enjoy their time with you, and you're not going to enjoy it either. But then if you stay home, you're not going to be happy either because you're staying home and you really want to go to the movie. So if you let go of this attachment and you just go to the movies, they stay home, they enjoy their time at home, you enjoy your time at the movies, and then when you come back together, you'll have good time together. But with the attachment in the mind wants to pull this person with you because you feel like you can only be happy going to this movie if you're with this person. And you might think that because they're staying home, they don't love you. They don't want to be with you. But this isn't true. They're just taking care of their own things and they're interested in staying home. So with attachment in the mind, you'll tug and pull and tug and pull, and they'll tug and pull and they'll tug and pull, and nobody's getting what they want. Whereas if you just make the decisions that are helpful for you and they make the decisions that are helpful for you, for them, you would like to go to the movies, they would like to stay home, everybody's getting what they would like, and then when you come back together and you spend time together, you can enjoy your time together. But if you're craving and you're holding on and you're wanting this person to be permanent in your life and everything you do, you want them to do with you, you'll experience discontentedness because of this attachment. So you need to be able to see what true love is loving someone as they are, free of your pressure, free of your expectations, free of you wanting them to be any particular way. And the challenge with understanding true love and practicing true love is a lot of the relationships that you currently have right now, there might be true love in there. They might have unconditional love, but it's being polluted or tainted with cravings, desires, attachments. Parents are a great example of this. Parents typically have unconditional love. They will love you no matter what you do in life. But they have certain cravings, certain attachments, certain expectations and wants. They might be putting pressure on you to take a certain college class or college program, or they might be putting pressure on you to get a certain job, or they might put pressure on you to get a life partner or have children or live in a certain place. Your parents might be putting pressure on you and having expectations of you. And in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I know they love me, and maybe this is what love is. So when you're experiencing this pressure and these expectations from your parents, you might be going out into the world doing that with your life partner, because you might think that that's the way to have a relationship, because that's what you're experiencing. You may not have ever been in a relationship where somebody doesn't want anything from you. That's what true love is where you don't want anything from somebody. You don't expect anything from them. You may not have ever been in that kind of relationship, so you may not understand how to now go out and practice that with other people. But the more you practice true love, when you understand what it is and you can practice it, then you'll experience more and more true love coming back to you. And when you see other people practicing true love, you'll be able to identify it. But if you don't know what true love is, you won't be able to identify it when it's being practiced with you. So for example, if my wife went away and she said, hey, did you miss me? I would say, no, I didn't miss you. Because I didn't, right? Because I can be just as happy with her as away from her. But if someone doesn't understand true love, when you hear that, you might say, what? You didn't miss me? You don't love me? Right? Oftentimes we think that if you miss somebody, that's the love. But that's not the love. That's the craving, desire, attachment, right? So as you have this change of perspective, if you decide to learn and deeply practice the true love without attachment, then you'll start to understand that you can be happy with your parents, you can be happy without them. You can be happy with your life partner, you can be happy without them. That your contentedness, your peacefulness, your joy isn't based on whether you're with this person or not. If you're with this person and you can only be happy when you're with them, that's the attachment. And the more you get your attachments out of the way in your relationships, you'll have more fulfilling, more sustaining, more satisfying relationships. Because as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your relationships, there's going to be bitterness and hostility. There's going to be difficulties and struggles. This is why, like your friends, you can probably get along with them with no issue. Like you guys don't have any issues. Everything's peaceful and joyful. But with maybe your parents or your siblings or your life partner, this is where you have a lot of difficulties because of the attachment. In relationships where you don't have attachment, your relationships will be at ease. They will be very peaceful. They'll be very fulfilling and very satisfying. Because if you're with that person, you're happy. If you're away from that person, you're happy. And you don't expect anything from that person. You don't want anything from that person. But in the relationships where you want things, those are the relationships that you'll struggle the most in. And typically it's your parents, it's your siblings, it's your life partner, your children, people like this that you're really close to. Your mind is holding on and you have craving, desire, attachment, and you're wanting things to be a certain way. But you can eliminate your craving, desire, attachment in your mind through training your mind while still maintaining the relationship. You can have relationships and not be attached. You can learn how to do that. And that's part of what the path to enlightenment is about, is learning how to have relationships where you don't have craving, desire, attachment. And when you can learn how to do this and you can have relationships where you interact with people without attachment, you'll be able to see that you can have a relationship with your parents, your siblings, your life partner, your children, and your relationships can be at ease. You don't get angry and they don't get angry. You don't get into arguments. You don't have frustration and agitation and annoyance. This is possible, but you need to be able to learn the path to enlightenment and train your mind to be able to do this. So true love is I love you as you are. And part of loving you as you are and understanding that I would like to see you be well is that you are responsible for being well. Right? Each individual person is responsible for their own wellness. Sometimes we take responsibility for other people's wellness. If we see mom struggling or dad's sad or frustrated, we might feel like we have to go fix that. Right? But each individual person is responsible for their own emotions and their own feelings. Any feelings or emotions that you have, these are being caused by your own mind. You can't fix mom's sadness. You can't fix dad's sadness. They have to cultivate wisdom to be able to train their mind, to be able to know how to train their mind to not have craving, desire, attachment. Whatever is going on outside of you isn't actually causing your discontent feelings. It's what's going on inside the mind. Sometimes we take responsibility for other people's emotions or feelings, thinking that we are causing their emotions, but in reality, we're not. If your parents are getting angry at you, they're causing their own anger. If your brothers and sisters are getting angry at you, they're causing their own anger. You're not responsible for their anger. But oftentimes people will blame you for their anger. And this is part of the attachment, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand in the unenlightened state. And because of this, relationships get very difficult and very much problems in relationships. So as you learn more and more what true love is, and you can learn how to practice where you don't put your expectations on people, then you'll find people won't put their expectations on you. The last thing you're interested in is accepting the expectations of others and adopting them as your own. So if your parents or your siblings or other people are putting their expectations on you, wanting you to be a certain way, it's important that you see that for what it is, which is their expectations. This is your life. You get to make your own decisions. And this is their life, and they get to make their own decisions. But it's when they're trying to control you and you're trying to control them that everything gets very difficult in the relationships. And the way to cut through this is to don't put expectations on other people. And then when other people are trying to put their expectations on you, you see that for what it is, and you don't allow your mind to adopt those as your own expectations. So more and more you can practice true love by training your mind using the core central teaching of the Buddha, which is called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching that I taught on Monday as part of this course, and I teach it in other courses and other retreats as well. And it's been recorded many times. It's in the books that I share. All these resources are available to you at no cost. You can learn gradually the path to enlightenment and train your mind to have more fulfilling, more sustaining, more satisfying relationships. And part of that is learning what true love is and being able to practice it. So I teach to a certain level of detail in these classes, and then I open up for questions to allow the students to go deeper into it. So here I'm just kind of introducing you a bit to the topic of true love, love without attachment. And now I'm going to open up to any questions that you guys might have related to your own life, your own relationships, what you're experiencing in life. You can ask me questions and I can help you to understand, because oftentimes students aren't going to understand something like this when they first hear it for the first time. So here at the temple, if you would like to ask questions, you can use the microphones here in the white bowl. If you get one, you just press the gray button and the lights will come on. You just wait a second or so and put it up to your chin. That way we'll hear you here at the temple, and they'll also be able to hear you online as well, because we have many people joining us online. And for those of you guys online in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your question into the comment section. I'll be able to see that and I'll be able to answer it for you. And if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like. So is there anybody here, anybody online that would like to ask a question on what I've shared so far about true love? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Do you have a question? Yes, ma'am. If you could get a microphone here. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because there'll probably be other people around you that might need them at different times, or you may need it again, so you can just keep it with you. There's a gray button on there. There you go.
Okay. I think I have a decent understanding of what you're saying. My question is, and this is dealing with a sibling who's struggling with addiction. And so when I'm around him, he's not in a state of being that's, natural for him. So I guess I'm kind of confused about how to approach that with true love.
Yeah, so the way you approach something like that is that he's making the decision. It's a he, right? He's making the decision to use substances. And as long as he's doing that, he's not going to be able to make wise decisions, because his mind is clouded by those substances. And those are his choices. He's experiencing the results of that. And you love him as he is, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing him be well. You're not forcing him to change. You're not wanting him to change. But if he's going to be interested in experiencing something better in life, he's going to need to change. But those are decisions that he has to make. You can't make those decisions for him. He has to make those decisions. So rather than wanting him to be a certain way or attempting to force him to be a certain way, you can just be there as a sibling and just love him as he is and just have true love for him, and which means have a genuine interest in seeing him be well. That you're not trying to control him or force him or change him or do anything like that. But whatever he's experiencing, he's got to experience that on his own and make his own decisions. And that doesn't mean you need to be involved in what he's doing. So if he's using substances, you can go away And that's true love, right? That you can love somebody from afar. You don't need to be right next to them and watch them destroy themselves in order to have love. You can actually have love and still walk away from somebody and maintain your genuine interest in seeing him be well. And if at some point he decides he's going to go to a rehab or get off the drugs, of course, you're right there to support him, encourage him. You're not judging him for what he's choosing to do. What the Buddha teaches is that anything we see anybody doing that is unwholesome or unfortunate, that we've done that same thing in this life or in some previous life as well. And this helps us to not judge other people and try to look at them as lower than us or higher than us or what have you, that, okay, we've experienced that same thing. He's struggling with addiction. That's unfortunate. If he'd like help, if he's interested in getting help, you're right there to be able to help him. And if he's not making that choice, then there's nothing you can do because he's making the choice to go towards the substance. But you just maintain your genuine interest in seeing him be well. And then understand that him being well is a function of his decisions, not a function of yours. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, so on this topic of true love, in this book, we're talking about chapter 15 of volume 1, because we use volume 1 for all these foundational courses. In chapter 15, not only do I talk about true love, but I talk about loving yourself, that you need to have love for yourself. Oftentimes, people have a lack of love for themselves. You might have negative self-talk in your mind. You might have degrading or diminishing thoughts within your own mind where you don't even have love for yourself. By learning how to love yourself, it helps you to learn how to love other beings. Because oftentimes, if you don't know how to love yourself, you don't know how to love other beings. So what I encourage people to do is spend time with yourself. Oftentimes people spend a lot of time with others, but they don't spend time with themselves. One of the great things about here in Thailand is a lot of times people are traveling alone. This is wonderful. Or if you're traveling with a group, is that you go out and do things alone sometimes. Sometimes when you travel with a group, you feel like you always have to be with this person during your travels. And now you guys might be arguing or getting in fights about certain things related to your travel experience. But what you can do, even if you're traveling with other people, is go out sometimes and do things alone independently. This is really helpful for you to eliminate any attachment, and it teaches you to love yourself so you can spend time alone. If you don't enjoy spending time with yourself alone, why would anybody ever enjoy spending time with you? Right? So you're going to need to learn how to spend time alone and enjoy being alone and going out to the mall alone, going out to the movies alone. Have you ever taken yourself out to a nice dinner, right? To a really nice restaurant? Probably not, right? Maybe not. Take yourself out to a nice restaurant. Spend some money on yourself. You don't have to be with somebody else in order to go to a nice restaurant. Take yourself out. Have a date night with yourself. Go to the movies, go to dinner, go enjoy yourself. Do this regularly. And go to the movies alone, go to the mall alone, go do these things. Go to the park alone and just walk around. Be with your own thoughts. And this will help you to learn how to love yourself. Because if you can love yourself and you enjoy spending time alone, then other people will enjoy spending time with you. But if you don't enjoy spending time alone with yourself, why would anybody ever enjoy spending time with you, right? So you're going to need to be in love with yourself, where you have a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. Right? That's what love is. You have a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. And that's going to come through your own wise decisions. You're not interested in conceited-based love. What conceited-based love would be like arrogance and pride, right? Where you're putting yourself above everyone else. This isn't what you're interested in. You're interested in having this genuine interest in seeing this being be well. And that means that you're going to need to potentially go on dates for yourself, right? Go to the movies or go to the restaurant or something like this. And then parents or caregivers are people that it's important to also have love for, because every single one of us were born to some parents, and these parents did certain things to be able to help us to get to the point where we are today. Of course, you didn't agree with everything your parents did. Of course not. I don't think there's anybody that has ever existed that agreed with 100% of every single thing that their parents ever did. You're only ever going to agree with one person 100% of the time. Do you know who that person is that you're going to agree with 100% of the time? You, right? Yourself, right? That's the only person you're ever going to agree with 100% of the time. So surely you didn't agree with what your parents did 100% of the time, but that doesn't mean that you have to hate them or be frustrated with them or agitated with them, because they've had different experiences in life and you've had different experiences in life, and you're not going to agree 100% of the time. But the Buddha talks about loving our parents because our parents are the ones who have given us this life. No matter what happened in your childhood, even very traumatic things that oftentimes can happen in childhood, our parents at least did the minimal things that they needed to do in terms of making sure that we sustained our life. We had food, we had water, we had clothing, we had shelter, we had medical care to a certain degree. And we had a certain amount of education that helped us to get to the point where we were an adult and we could be self-sustaining, right? Every single one of us made it to an age where we're now self-sustaining and we can go out into the world and we can make decisions about our own food, water, clothing, shelter, medical care, our own job, our own occupation, our own income. So while we didn't necessarily agree with every single thing that our parents did, they at least gave us enough support and encouragement to be able to get to the point where we could sustain our life. And now, as adults, we can make decisions that are in our best interest. So oftentimes we have expectations of our parents and we want them to be a certain way. And when they don't do what we want, we get angry and we get bitter and we get hostile. And it makes our relationships a real struggle with them because they're not doing what you want them to do. But if you get rid of your expectations and you just love your parents unconditionally, where you just love them as they are, realizing that they are an unenlightened being in the world, struggling in the world just like you, they lack wisdom, and they did the best that they could do. Based on the wisdom that they had at that particular time, they did the best that they could do. And now you don't need to feel guilty or shameful or vindictive or resentful about anything that's happened in your childhood. You can let that go and realize that it's in the past. And now as an adult, you can just love them as they are. And the Buddha provides a teaching about this that I'm going to share with you guys here, that he talks about our parents and he talks about our caregivers. And I'll read these words to you so that you can hear the words of the Buddha. He says, this is titled Repaying One's Mother and Father. It's a great little story, a great analogy to think about how to repay your parents for this debt of gratitude of having given you life and gotten you to the point where that you can now sustain your life. He says, monks, there are two persons that cannot easily be repaid. What two? One's mother and father. Even if one should carry about one's mother on one shoulder and one's father on the other, and while doing so, should have a lifespan of 100 years, live for 100 years, and if one should attend to them by anointing them with balms, by massaging, bathing, and rubbing their limbs, and they even void their urine and excrement there, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. Even if one, my eyes are really getting old. Even if one were to establish one's parents as supreme lords and rulers over this great earth, abounding in the 7 treasures, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. For what reason? Parents are of great help to their children. They bring them up, feed them, and show them the world. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a moment. So what the Buddha is saying is that if you have your mother on one shoulder and your father's on another shoulder, and you live for 100 years, and you carry them around for 100 years, and you massage them, and you bathe them, and you rub balms on them, and you clean up their urine and their excrement, he's saying you still haven't done enough for your parents. He says if you give them all these material possessions, all these riches, and you establish them as rulers over some great land, you still haven't done enough for your parents. Right? Because this is just material things. That's why. All these material things, they come and they go. The Buddha is saying you have this debt of gratitude to your parents because they bring you up and they show you the world. And now he's going to say, okay, this is what you can do in order to repay your parents for this debt of gratitude. He says, but monks, if when one's parents lack confidence, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in confidence. If when one's parents are unwholesome, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in virtuous behavior or moral conduct. If when one's parents are selfish, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in generosity. If when one's parents are unwise, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in wisdom. In such a way, one has done enough for one's parents, repaid them, and done more than enough for them. So what the Buddha is saying here is that when your parents are having difficulties, when they're struggling, when they're lacking certain wisdom about how to conduct their life and how to live a peaceful life, this life of the path to enlightenment, he's saying, okay, if you can share some wisdom with them and you can help them along, then this is you repaying them. So when he says that when they lack confidence, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in confidence, what he's talking about is confidence in his teachings. That his teachings, if you learn them and you reflect on them to independently verify them and you practice them, you will see that they're the truth, 100%. His teachings lead exactly where he said they do, to this enlightened mental state where the mind's peaceful and joyful permanently. You will never experience any anger or sadness or frustration or any of those discontent feelings if you train your mind deeply enough in the teachings. So when you have confidence in these teachings through your own development of the wisdom of the path to enlightenment, if you see your parents are lacking confidence, the Buddha says that you try to help them with confidence in these teachings. And then he says, when one is unwholesome, then they encourage and settle and establish them in virtuous behavior. So say you saw your parents cussing or stealing or lying or doing other things like this. If you know that those things are unwise and it's going to lead to harm in their life, the Buddha says, okay, try to encourage them to do wholesome things and have virtuous behavior. But remember, you're going to need to do this humbly, right? Because oftentimes parents aren't interested in learning from their children. Parents sometimes think that their children are below them and they're so much smarter than their children. So you're going to need to be very humble and find a way to do this in a humble way. When I did this with my family and my wife's family, we would have mom sitting on the sofa. We would sit down on the floor. We would bring her some water or some flowers or something like this. And we would sit and we would talk and we'd have conversations. And we would talk about things that we noticed that we would like to share with her and see if she was open to that sharing. Sometimes they were open to it. Sometimes they weren't, right? So you can do this humbly, but you need to be very skillful and you need to have your own wisdom of the path in order to be able to then share that wisdom with them. He says that when they're selfish, that you help to establish them in generosity. Generosity is giving and sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. Generosity helps train your mind to let go. Because the core problem that the Buddha discovered is what's called craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting, the expecting, the mind's holding on. So when the mind's holding on very tightly like that, it's going to experience discontent feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and all those others. So when you're practicing generosity where you're living open-handedly, this trains the mind to let go. The breathing mindfulness meditation, when your mind moves off the breath and you cut off that thought and you bring your mind back to the breath, your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Your goal is to train the mind to easily let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, which is the cause of discontentedness, the mind's holding on. It's holding on to things very tightly, wanting things to be a certain way, and it can only be happy if it gets its way. So the unenlightened mind needs to be trained to let go. So not only does breathing mindfulness meditation do that, but generosity does that. So that's why the Buddha is saying that where you see your parents being selfish, you can help them and establish them in this generosity. But of course, it's their decisions, but you just need to be able to be skillful to be able to help them be able to see how they could potentially be more generous in certain situations. And then the Buddha says that when they're unwise, that you help establish them in wisdom. Again, you're going to need to do this humbly because oftentimes parents aren't interested in learning from their children, right? So there were times where my mom would come to me and she would say, "Hey, David, I need your advice." And I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" And she would tell me what's going on. And I would say, "Oh, Mom, this is how you should handle that. This is what I would suggest." And she would say, "You know, David, you're 100% right. I can see how that would be so much better, but I'm not going to do it that way." I'd say, "Okay, Mom, up to you. Do whatever you like to do." She's like, "All right." And then we get off the phone. She'd go away. She'd go do whatever she's going to do. She would come back 6 months later. She says, "Yep, David, you were right again. I did it that way that I thought I should do it, and it didn't work. It blew up in my face. I should have did it your way. I should have learned by now," right? So you'll see this sometimes, that you'll share things with your parents and your parents will do something just the opposite. If you love them as they are and you love them unconditionally and you're practicing generosity where you're willing to give and share without any expectation of anything in return, when you're sharing wisdom with your parents, there shouldn't be the expectation that they do exactly what you say. That would be unwise because they're not going to necessarily do what you say. All you can do is advise them. All you can do is guide them. You could spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours helping your parents, and they could walk out the door and do exactly the opposite thing that you said. And you might get angry if you have craving, desire, attachment. But if you don't have craving, desire, attachment, and your parents go out and do something just the opposite of what you said, okay, up to them. It's their life. It's their decisions. It's their results. Your goal isn't to step into somebody's life and start making a bunch of decisions for them and then force them to do things your way. That would be very unwise. Instead, you're like a parallel process. If this is your parents or your children or your life partner, you're kind of walking alongside of them, sharing advice, sharing guidance as they need it and as they request. You shouldn't force your advice onto them. You shouldn't force your suggestions onto them, but instead just be there as a help and as a guide. Oftentimes, when you see your parents struggling with something, you'll experience painful feelings because of your own cravings, desires, attachments. You're wanting mom or dad to be permanently well, or you're wanting brothers and sisters to be permanently well. And this is your craving, desire, attachment that when they're not well, you'll experience painful feelings. And the mind thinks that the way to solve that is to step into somebody else's life and make a bunch of decisions for them, and then that's going to fix your painful feelings. But it won't, because the problem that you're experiencing is the craving, desire, attachment, wanting them to be a certain way. And if you can let go of wanting and longing, yearning and expecting, and just realize that they're making their own decisions and you need to be able to give them advice and guidance and suggestions, but ultimately it's their life and their decisions, then you can be very content that you can just share advice, and then whatever they choose to do is up to them. It's their life and it's their decisions. But if you try to step into somebody's life and make decisions for them, it's not allowing them to cultivate the wisdom that they need. So for example, my son, he actually happens to be here today. He's in the back. He's off school. When he's making decisions, I don't force or control him to do things my way. Instead, I give him advice and I give him guidance. And then he makes the decisions that he would like to make. And then that way he gains wisdom of how to make wise decisions, because I'm not permanent in his life. My role as a parent is to help him gain wisdom so that as he's with me or he's away from me, he can make wise decisions because he's got that wisdom on board. Whereas if I was to jump into his life and force him to make decisions my way, he never gets an opportunity to cultivate wisdom. So that means when he's away from me, he doesn't know how to make decisions. He only knows how to make decisions when dad forces him to do it a certain way. So I don't force him to make decisions in my way. I give him advice. I give him guidance. If I see him about to make an unwise decision, I will let him know that, hey, you're headed for an unwise decision here. I recommend that you consider this and do something different. And in some situations, I will let him go ahead and make that unwise decision so he can see the results of it. In some situations, it's such a grave decision that if he made this decision, it would be unwise. Like if he's about to walk across the street and get hit by a truck, I'm not going to say, you should probably reconsider in the responsibility and the role that you have in their life. As a parent to a child, the Buddha says that your role is to restrain your child from evil. So if you see your child headed towards evil, you restrain them from that to be able to help them. But at the same time, you need to be able to help them cultivate wisdom so that they can make wise decisions in the future to then be able to make those decisions without you. But in a situation where it's your parents or your siblings or a life partner, they're adults, right? Your only role is to advise them and guide them when they're open to it. And ensure that you're not stepping into their life and attempting to force them or control them to do things your way. Okay? So this is parents and caregivers. And then in terms of life partners, if you're with a life partner, understand that choosing a life partner in your life is one of the most impactful decisions that you'll make. That who you choose to be with as a life partner, it's almost like if you had a company and you were choosing a CEO for your company, that company is going to live and breathe and die based on your choice as whoever you hire for a CEO. So if you look at your life as you're leading this life almost like a business or a company, if you had a business or a company, you would probably take a really long time because of all the money that you've invested to create this company. You would take a significant amount of time and be very thorough to select a CEO for your company, because it's going to live, breathe, and die based on your decision of who you put into that position as a CEO. Well, the same thing is true about your life. Whoever you choose as a life partner, your life is going to be impacted by this choice. So you'd like to really take your time. Oftentimes, when we have craving, desire, attachment, we might be in a hurry to hurry up and make a choice, where you don't have to hurry to make a choice about your life partner. You would really like to take your time and be sure that whoever you select, that there's a good match there. And the things that I would advise you to look for is look for a partner who's interested in inner growth. If you're choosing a partner that's constantly blaming you for the things that they're struggling with in the world, if they're not interested in growing, if they're making unwise decisions like killing and stealing and sexual misconduct and lying and taking substances that cause heedlessness, while we don't judge people for doing those things, it would be very unwise for you to have somebody in your life who's killing, stealing, having sexual misconduct, who's lying, and taking substances that cause heedlessness. So when you're coming together with somebody who can potentially be a life partner for you, taking your time and really spending time to see how they treat you and how they treat others is really wise. You can look at, how does this person treat taxi drivers? How does this person treat food servers? How does this person treat the front desk at a hotel when they check in? Are they polite? Are they kind? Are they friendly? Are they respectful? And if they're treating other people this way, then they'll tend to treat you this way. Listen to how they talk about their parents, their siblings, and their previous partners. If they're disgruntled and angry and frustrated about their parents, about their siblings, if they're constantly complaining about their previous partners, it's only a matter of time before you're that person. Because what they're showing you is that they have difficulties getting along with people. They're having difficulties getting along with their parents, perhaps. They're having difficulties getting along with their siblings. They've had difficulties getting along with their life partners or their boyfriends or girlfriends in the past, and it's only a matter of time before you're that person. So you'd like to pay a lot of attention to how they treat other people and how they talk about other people and other relationships. If they're gossiping and slandering and being very harsh and very bitter, this is all indications that they have craving and anger in their mind. But if they're willing to do inner work and they're willing to improve their life through evolving and growing and developing, and you're interested in doing that type of work as well, this type of thing that the Buddha is teaching you will help you to be able to do that inner work, and your partner can potentially do that type of work too. Because if you're in a relationship with a partner and they're constantly blaming you for their struggles and difficulties, that's going to be a very miserable life to be in. If they have ego and arrogance and they're talking down to you and they think that they're so much superior than you, this is also going to be a very difficult life, a very struggle to be in this type of relationship. So you'd like to find a partner which is a very wise choice, where they're humble and they're peaceful and they're loving and they're kind and they're respectful, but realizing that the perfect partner doesn't exist. Whatever you have in your mind is what the perfect partner would be. That person only exists in your mind. They don't exist in the real world. Sometimes people have this perfect image in their mind of what this partner is going to be, and they go around the world searching for this person. But this person doesn't exist. And even if they did exist, when you guys got together, within a matter of 6 months or a year, 2 years, they're going to start changing. And if you're craving for them to be that particular way that's in your mind, now when they start changing, you're not going to like it, right? So understand that when you get together with a partner, they're not going to be a perfect person. They're not going to complete you. It's not this person who's going to make you feel happy. It's not this relationship that's going to make you feel satisfied. You need to be inwardly satisfied and inwardly fulfilled. And now you include this partner into your life because you guys are supporting each other and encouraging each other in life. But if you're looking to a partner to complete you and make you feel whole, this is already attachment before you ever get started. And now the relationship's going to really struggle. So you would like to just include people in your life that complement your life, and that you can enhance their life and they can enhance your life. But you guys understand that it's your own independent life. Sometimes when we get together with a life partner, we think that we have to agree on everything. That now this is my partner and we're going to agree on everything. This isn't actually possible. You guys are going to have disagreements. Me and my wife, we've been together for 17 years. we've been happily together for about 5 years, but we've been together for 17 years, right? So for the first 11 or 12 years, we were trying to figure all this out, right? Because I was wanting certain things, she was wanting certain things, we were tugging and pulling at each other, we would have arguments sometimes. Now we're at the point where there's never any arguments, there's never any hostility or bitterness. And we still disagree, but we disagree respectfully. We sit down and we talk and we have discussions, and we might disagree on a particular topic, but when we walk away, we're smiling and we're happy. We never have elevated conversations. We don't argue. We're not upset with each other. It's just that she has a different opinion and I have a different opinion because we're two different people and we've had different experiences. So of course we're going to have different opinions on things. We're never going to agree 100% on everything. But disagreement doesn't mean disrespect. Disagreement just means we have a different point of view. We have a different opinion. And now we can sit down, we can listen to each other, and then we can understand each other. And when we walk away, we still might have a disagreement in terms of we don't agree with what each other's decision is, but we don't have to agree with each other's decision because it's her life and it's my life, and we're just choosing to share that life with each other. It's not just one life and now we both have to agree with each other. It's two separate lives that we're choosing to live together, but we're sharing that life with each other and helping and encouraging each other along the way. So you can get to a point where even with your life partner, you don't argue, you're not upset, you're not frustrated, you're not irritated, you're not annoyed. But as long as you have attachment in your relationships, you're not going to be able to do that. As long as you don't understand what true love is, which is just loving this person as they are. I love my wife as she is. I don't agree with everything she does, but I love her the way she is. Like there's been times where I've woken up at 8 a.m. in the morning and there's drills and saws in our house and there's people remodeling a certain room in our house, and I wake up and I walk in and there's 3 construction workers in our house remodeling the house, and I'm like, I didn't know about this. I didn't realize this was going on. And I go to my wife and I say, hey, what's going on? She's like, oh, I'm turning that room into a massage room because I'd like to start offering massage from our house. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize you were going to do this. Okay, well, now I know, right? Now I know. So in my opinion, if it was me, I would have went to her and I would have said, hey, honey, I'm thinking about remodeling this room. Are you okay with that? What do you think? Is that okay for you? I'd like to get your ideas, right? I would kind of consult with her. But in her mind, she didn't have to do that. Right? In her mind, this is her house and she's going to change it the way she would like to change it. Well, for me, I do it one way. She does it another way. It's not that my way is right and her way is wrong. It's just a completely different way. And for me, it's just like, all right, it's your house. I just live here, right? I just live here. It's your house. And I've been willing to accept that, right? So this is how you can create harmony in your relationships. Whereas if you're not craving or longing and yearning for things to be a certain way, then you can be harmonious, right? If I wanted her to do things my way, I would be angry and frustrated in that situation where I woke up and there were saws and drills in the house. But me and my son, we've come to realize that it's her house. We just live there. Right? And we have our little living room that we play in the living room and the dining room, but everything else in the house is hers. She's taken over the whole house. Okay, Mom, you can have the house, right? We're just going to live here, right? And that's okay for us. So you're going to need to build this harmony in your relationships, and it's going to come with you having to let go of wanting things to be a certain way and realize that you're just sharing your life and that this decision of a life partner is very impactful, and take your time. Don't rush into it. And you might have to have multiple boyfriends and girlfriends to figure out what it is that is really meaningful for you in a relationship, and what is it that you really truly aspire for in a relationship. I was married before this with my current wife. I was married to another woman, and when we got married, she was a Thai woman as well. My current wife is Thai, and we got a divorce after about 6 years. And what I learned in that relationship, I learned many things, but that was my first time I'd ever come to Thailand, was in that relationship. And I decided I was going to live in Thailand for the rest of my life. We were living in America at the time. And this person didn't want to live in America. And this was a big, point of contention, that she wanted to live in America and I wanted to live in Thailand. So I knew that I couldn't be in that relationship and it wasn't going to be successful. So among other reasons, we decided to end our relationship. But this new relationship with my current wife, on our second date, I asked her, where is it that you would like to live for the rest of your life? Is it America? And she said, oh no, not at all. I would like to live in Thailand. I was like, perfect. So each one of these relationships that you go through, you should be learning and growing and developing and understanding what it is that you're interested in a life partner. And then when you find your next partner and you go through these different relationships, be sure that whatever you've learned about yourself in those previous relationships, that you find those things in this new partner. And then when you find this new partner, realize that they're going to change and they're going to grow and they're going to be different. When my wife first met me, I was a business owner. I had lots of money, had lots of things going on in my life. And I lived in America and had businesses and money and cars and houses and all kinds of investments. And then as time went on, I started closing all that stuff down. I started shutting it down, and I started to share the teachings of the Buddha. And now I don't make any money. I just live based on donations. Whereas if my wife was craving for that money and she wanted it to be permanent, as I started changing, she wouldn't have been comfortable with that. And then we would have struggled in our relationship. When we first met, my wife was unemployed and she used to cook and clean and do laundry. I would come home from work and she would have 5 different entrees on the table ready for me to eat. It was so much food on the table, I couldn't even put a plate on the table. There was that much food, right? And if I was attached to my wife being this particular way, and I thought that that was her love, that it was the food, the laundry, the cleaning, and all these things, if I thought that's what the love was, when she started changing, which we had a child, she started working, she couldn't do those kinds of things anymore. If I was holding on to those things, wanting them to be permanent, then I would feel lost in the relationship and I would feel like the love is gone. So whatever you do with a partner when you guys first get together, things are going to drastically change over time. And you're going to be needing to be willing to allow that change to happen and that growth and that development to happen, because you're going to change and your partner's going to change too. But if you're craving for them to be permanent, or they're craving for you to be permanent, now you guys will struggle as these changes occur. So the way to get to a long-lasting relationship is to realize that the relationship's going to change. You're going to change, your partner's going to change, and that's okay. That's normal. You can't get to a point where you're going to be exactly the same and they're going to be exactly the same. This just doesn't happen in the world. So when you guys get together, make a really wise choice based on what you see of the person's mind, right? The beauty is going to go. The handsomeness is going to go. That's going to, as we age, that's all going to go. But if you look at the person's mind, that's what you can love. So when I met my current wife, what I really loved about her is she was honest. There was a situation very early on when we first met that she had every reason to lie to me. And it would have been to her advantage for that particular situation to actually lie. But she chose to tell the truth. And by telling the truth, this really had an impact on me. And I realized, like, wow, this is the type of person that I would like to be with. Someone who's honest and loving and kind and warm, polite and respectful. These are the kind of qualities that I saw in her. And of course, she was beautiful too, but all of that beauty changed, right, as time went on. So the beauty's gone, but I see the beauty in her mind, right? That her mind is very beautiful. The outward appearance isn't what I love about her. I love her mind and the qualities of mind that she has. So these are some things that you can think about as you're looking to find a life partner, is that they're going to change and the perfect partner doesn't exist. And as you guys get together, work on developing problem-solving skills where you guys can learn how to solve problems together. Whereas if they always want it their way and you always want it your way, this isn't going to work. You guys are going to need to learn how to come together, have calm discussions, friendly discussions, respectful discussions, realizing that you're going to have different opinions, and then you solve problems together. And if you guys can solve problems together, there's nothing in the world that you won't be able to face. Okay, so let me pause here. This is everything that I have to share with you guys today, unless you guys have more questions. Anything that you would like to ask? Yes, sir. And those of you guys online, you can ask questions as well. Just put those into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like.
Thank you, David. Quite an extensive discussion there on life partners, all within the overall context of path to enlightenment. I'm assuming it's not necessary to have a life partner to continue on the path to enlightenment. Perhaps one caveat to that is whether that's based on a craving, desire, attachment to being on my own or one's own. So I guess the simple question is like, is it necessary to have a life partner to head on the path?
It's not necessary. It's not required. There's going to be some people who choose to have a life partner. There are going to be some who don't. This is impermanence, right? So by the time you get to enlightenment, you will have made those choices, though. You will have either made the choice to be an individual who's choosing to be single, and that's the life that you're going to live, and that will make your way to enlightenment that way. Or you might decide to have a partner, and you might decide to go that way. Choosing to have a partner, there's a whole nother degree of wisdom that you need in order to get to enlightenment, while having a partner, while having children, and these kinds of things, if somebody chooses to do that. There's a whole deeper level of wisdom and training of the mind to learn how to have these relationships without of attachment. Because oftentimes people who are closest to us, these are the most challenging relationships because of the attachment. But there'll be some people who get to enlightenment and decide to be single. So it's not required for you to have a partner in order to get to enlightenment. But this talk is, if you're interested in having a partner, here's some things to consider. Because there's certain people who aspire to have a partner, and there's some who I'm completely fine not having a partner, and I prefer this type of lifestyle. Same thing that even if you have a partner and you're capable of having children, not every relationship's going to have children too. Oftentimes society wants us to think that everyone has to have a partner, everyone has to have children, but not every couple is capable of having children. It could be a same gender relationship. It could be opposite gender relationship that's unable to have children. Children aren't required, right? So it comes down to your own personal choices. And what I'm sharing here as part of true love is that as people are putting their expectations on you and wanting you to be a certain way, realize that that's their expectations and that you don't need to adopt those as your own. And then conversely, be sure that you're not putting your expectations on other people of wanting them to be a certain way, because that's where the contention and the difficulties come in the relationships, is that when either side is putting expectations on each other, and now people don't feel comfortable in a relationship. So if we get to the point where you realize that everybody makes their own decisions and then everybody can be content with those decisions, then you can get to harmony in your relationships because you're practicing true love, where you realize that I have a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. In order for them to be well, they're responsible for their wellness. And part of them being well is me not putting my expectations on them and them making their own decisions. And that's to love somebody as they are, true love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Here's my problem. I was abused by my parents during all my childhood. My mom makes me doing all the housework and punch me and yell at me. So I tried to making attachment with them when I was 25, and I find myself very scared of them. So is it okay for me to not loving them anymore?
Okay, so this is very challenging, right? I also grew up in this kind of way as well, where I experienced a lot of abuse growing up. So what I would suggest for you is, at this point in time, is because obviously there's still emotion there, right? There's still cravings there. Is I would suggest that you step away from the relationship, kind of put it on pause for a period of time within your own mind. You don't have to tell them anything, but just within your own mind, put the relationship on pause. And then you're going to need to do certain inner work in order to help you to heal from what hurt you, so that you never need to hurt again. It's not your parents that are actually hurting you. I know that they've done things that are unwise and that have been harmful, it sounds like, but the pain that you're experiencing in your mind, it's actually your craving, desire, attachment. You can actually solve this. You can heal from what hurt you. But as long as you're in the relationship, it's really hard to do that. So by putting the relationship on pause, stepping away from it, and then you doing the inner work that you need to do in order to train your own mind, then if you would ever aspire to be in a relationship with them again, you'll have more wisdom of how to do that without craving, desire, attachment. So to answer your question directly, as long as you don't love another being, no matter who, away from it, learning to do the inner work that you need to do, which loving kindness meditation is part of that, and other teachings that you'll need, then as your mind becomes more free, more liberated, you don't have these strong feelings anymore, then you can choose for yourself. Would I like to come back into the relationship or not? And if you'd like to stay away from the relationship, that's fine. You can choose to be away from your parents for the rest of your life if that's what you choose. But you would at least like to get to the point where you don't hate them and you don't have anger towards them and you don't not love them, because you can love someone from afar. So like for me, for example, my biological father, he left me when I was inside my mom's stomach. And from what I was told is that when I was inside my mom's stomach, he actually punched my mom in the stomach and was trying to kill me because he didn't think I was his baby, right? So he ended up leaving when I was still in the womb. And then there was all kinds of other things that I heard about him too. But nonetheless, I ended up meeting him when I got older and we had a relationship and so forth. But now we don't really talk. There's no relationship there whatsoever. He's on my Facebook and he might send me a message once every 6 months or so, or I might write to him every once in a while. I love him. I love him as he is. I have a genuine interest in seeing him be well. I don't hate him. I'm not upset with him. I don't have resentment towards him. I just love him as he is, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing him be well. But loving somebody doesn't mean you have to be in a relationship with them. So you could pause your relationship with your parents, go away, do this inner work yourself, and then decide later whether or not you would like to have a relationship with them or not. But at least get to the point where you eliminate the anger in your own mind, because that's only hurting you. It's not hurting them. And I can help you learn how to do that if you like. I have all the resources and all the classes and all the help. Even if you're back in your home country, you can be in the classes because I live stream them, and there's Zoom and all these other ways for you to continue to learn if you like. So you can come talk to me after class if you like, and I'll help you get started with the first book and all the other resources that you need to be able to learn so that you can heal from what hurt you. And what hurt you is inside your own mind. And when you heal from what hurt you, you get to the point where you never, ever, ever need to hurt ever again. And it's not your love that's causing your hurt toward your parents. It's your craving, your desire, your longing, your yearning. But you can solve that. Okay? Anything else you guys would like to ask? Yes, ma'am. If you could get a microphone here. We have plenty of them. That way the folks online will be able to hear you.
Well, I understand what you mean. For example, my personality or other people's personality cannot do that. How do we adjust ourselves? If we meet someone or something, 9 out of 10 things are rejected, how do we adjust ourselves? Except tell myself craving this is craving desire attachment. What other gesture we can adjust ourselves?
Sure. So what I'm describing is true love. For some of you, when you hear it, it's like, whoa, that's like really hard for me to do. Like you can actually get to a point where if somebody murdered your mother, you would still love that person. You could still love the murderer. Right? But that's like a really high thing, really high bar for you to be able to accomplish right now. Because remember, what true love is a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. So if somebody murdered my son, for example, I would still love the murderer. I disagree with what they did, but I can still love the person. But because unconditional love is unconditional. It's not contingent upon I agree with this person, right? So if someone murdered my son, I disagree with their choices and decisions. I can disagree with the choices and decisions while still loving the person. Loving the person is I have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. So sure, that person needs to go to jail. They need to get rehab. They need to get help. I disagree with the decision that they made, which is murder my son, but I can still love the person, a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. So the unenlightened mind doesn't do this naturally. The unenlightened mind has a craving. I want my son to be permanent. And when somebody kills your son, now they've taken that away from me. The mind isn't getting what it wants anymore. And now the parent might hate the murderer, but the hate isn't helping anything. The hate doesn't solve anything. The hate is only hurting your own mind. So what you're asking, I think, is how do I accomplish what it is that what you're suggesting, which is practice this true love. The way that you accomplish it is by training the mind. It's not going to be something that you can just click your fingers and immediately do. Your mind needs to be trained to let go of craving, desire, attachment, and it's breathing mindfulness meditation, generosity, and it's the Eightfold Path, which you guys didn't learn this, that those of you guys that are just here for the morning, but let me back up to something that I taught on the first day, which is right here. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha that you learn in order to train your mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. There's 8 factors: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So what I did on the first day is I walked students through using the original words of the Buddha to learn each one of these factors. And then as you implement this and dial this into your life more and more closely, this is where you'll see the real improvement. Just learning what true love is, you don't have enough tools and techniques and wisdom to be able to go out and instantly implement it and actually accomplish what it is, what I'm sharing. There's other tools and other foundational teachings that you need besides just understanding what true love is. So someone who's really interested in developing harmony in their relationships, they're going to need to know more than just the last hour and a half of what I've been teaching. They're going to need to know all these factors and all these steps, because what's hindering you from being able to practice true love is the pollutions that are inside the mind. And when you learn the tools and techniques of how to uproot them and eliminate them from the mind, then you can actually practice true love. But until you understand this core central teaching and you develop more wisdom, you wouldn't be able to do that. So this topic of true love is a topic that's part of an overall set of teachings that is going to ultimately help somebody develop harmony in their relationships. But it wouldn't just be this one talk that's going to be able to help you to develop harmony in your relationships. You're going to need more tools and techniques. So any of you guys are welcome to do what I recommended with this young lady, that if you guys would like to stick around, I will guide you to getting access to this book. Or I can just tell you now that if you go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, and you click on free books, you go to the first book and you start learning in the first book. And I have online programs where each Sunday and each Wednesday you can log in and you can attend these classes live. And if you can't attend live because maybe you're at work, they're all recorded. They're all on our YouTube channel, they're on our Facebook page, or if you don't have access to YouTube or Facebook, you can come in through Zoom. And you can learn these teachings slowly but surely. You gradually learn, you gradually reflect, and you gradually practice, and you build up your life practice slowly but surely. So what I would suggest you start with is reading the book and developing a meditation practice. This is a good starting point. And then slowly but surely, you can build up all the wisdom that you need to be able to now have relationships where you can have love for others. Because you got to get rid of your cravings, desires, attachments. That's what's causing you to not have love for others, is that the mind has craving, desire, attachment, wanting them to be a certain way. So the way that you get to true love is you got to eliminate your craving, desire, attachments. This is the path to eliminating craving, desire, attachment, is the Eightfold Path. And there's individual words that the Buddha used that describes this path in detail. These are his words that I will typically go through, and I will teach you each individual aspect of his teachings that are going to help you to understand how to practice in such a way. So for example, this right speech, this is the natural law of Gotama. This is helping you see the cause and effect and action and result. Because in your relationships, when you're speaking, you're probably speaking harsh and aggressive and hostile and bitter. You're probably arguing with people. And this is one of the reasons why you're having difficulties in your relationships. But if you can learn the natural law of Gotama around speech, and you can train your mind to speak in ways that is harmless, now you can have fulfilling relationships. But as long as you're being harmful in your relationships, this harm's going to come back to you. And sometimes we think the way to solve our problems is to fix other people. but this isn't actually going to work. You can't fix other people. You need to fix your own mind. And when you gain wisdom of how to fix your own mind, this is where you'll see real improvement. So what the Buddha is teaching you is he's teaching you how to improve your condition of your own mind. And one of the big things that are difficult in relationships is the way you speak and the way you communicate. And because you haven't studied the original teachings of the natural laws of existence that the Buddha taught around speech, you're probably not speaking this way in all your relationships. And this is one of the things that causes your relationships to be difficult, because you might be speaking harsh or bitter or hostile, or you might be arguing, you might be angry and hostile in your relationships. And as long as you're putting that out, that's what's going to come back to you. So slowly but surely, if you train your mind in addition to meditation, but you learn things like right speech, now in your relationships you can improve. Because in the relationships that I had before I got on this path, it was like a log jam, where there's this log jam and there's this anger and hatred, and I had to pull out those logs. And as I pulled out those logs, then everything can flow more readily. So you're going to need to do some work, and it's going to take more than just a 1.5 hour talk to be able to learn how to do that. So if you're done with the anger, you're done with the sadness, you're done with the frustration, you're not interested in these feelings anymore, the Buddha's teachings are here to help you. But you'll need to decide to step out and actually learn and grow and develop. And all the resources are available for you at no cost, even personal guidance. I'm here to help you. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Not seeing anything else. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little break here for all of you guys to go take a break. Those of you guys that are here at the course, if you'd like to continue. When we come back from the break, I'm going to move into our next topic. I'll show you guys what that next topic is. So when we come back from break, I'm going to be teaching you how to practice in a world of the unknowing relationships with non-practitioners. Because if you're practicing these teachings and you're learning these teachings, other people aren't. And oftentimes this is a real struggle for people in their relationship. So this is the topic I'm going to teach next. So right now it's basically 11 o'clock. Let's come back at 11:20. And then that way you guys can have a bit of a break, and then we'll start at 11:20, which is basically about 15-20 minutes from now. If you're just here for the morning and you're not coming back, it was wonderful to have you in class. Thank you for deciding you'd like to learn a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha. Perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee Khap.